Happy Earth Day, everybody. I'm very excited to be going back into the vineyards today. We're going to be in Chile at Almaviva, where it is actually in harvest. So I'm very grateful they're taking time out for us. Look at my stories. There's a cool story about using seaweed as compost. And they're doing that at Macari. And I think that's very cool. But right now, Almaviva is right on time, and we are going to Chile. And look at my stories for some interviews next week that are not quite finalized, but cool stuff, including a vineyard workers' rights activist. Let's see. I believe they're on their way now. And I'm excited they're in harvest down there. I always have to remind myself the 6 months opposite schedule. It's a beautiful day in New York here. I hope they must be having good weather if they're picking today. Welcome, everybody. Happy Earth Day. Just waiting for Almaviva to join us. Michel Friou is the winemaker. They're down in Chile. They're actually taking a break from harvest, which I'm very thankful for. And I was just saying that Macari Wines is doing a thing with composting seaweed. I'm a seaweed nut, and so I'm always following things and posting things on stories and fascinated by the sustainable nature of seaweed farming. And so I connected Green Wave, which is an organization that helps people start seaweed farms, with Macari out on Long Island, and they're fertilizing as an experiment, which is very exciting. So Almaviva, hey Laura, hey Gabriella, everybody, Pez, Danny from California. This is, I think, an issue with they're out in the vineyards and you never know the data. Michel.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you? It was slow connecting, but I have a good view and a good connection.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, we are.
It looks like beautiful weather there.
Yes. Today it's getting clearer. Yeah, we have some clouds, but getting blue.
It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start right off by telling people who you are. Could you introduce yourself, Michel? And I like to hear the story of how you got there, like what stage you did, where you went to school, how you worked your way up to become the winemaker there.
Perfect. So if you want, I will just show you the few views of the vines and the vineyards, and then I'm going to sit just close to this. So we are very close. We started the harvest, and we have still some vines to harvest. Here we have some Cabernet Sauvignon grapes.
Oh, you have grapes still, okay.
As you can see, and
wow.
This is a view a bit of the property and the winery that you see on the back.
Oh yeah.
That you see on the back, our small chateau, chateau in the place.
Oh, what a beautiful day!
I'm going to sit. It will be easier to speak.
Awesome. Oh, you have a setup. Excellent.
Yeah. Is it all right? You can see me?
You're a little in the shadow. I don't know if you move closer, the camera will adjust, or maybe turn a little bit with the sun not at that angle. That's better. Oh, that's gorgeous with the mountains. That's perfect, Michel. Look at that. Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, there you go. We get close, the camera evens it out. So that's perfect.
Okay.
How lovely.
Well, yes, I am. My name is Michel Friou, and I'm born in France, in the western part of France, south part of Bretagne, in Nantes, and I studied in the south of France, in Montpellier. I studied agronomy and then winemaking quite a long time ago. Before starting to travel in different places all over the world, I worked a bit in India, a bit in Australia, and I even worked for about 4 years in in Malaysia, in Borneo and New Caledonia on tropical forest before coming back to the wine in Chile. So I after a few different experiences in different places, I started to settle down in Chile when I arrived in 1995 in Chile.
Okay.
And so more than 25 years in Chile. I worked a bit with Paul Pontalier and Bruno Prats
Mm-hmm.
in the small vineyard in Santiago in Viña Quitania. Then I worked for almost 9 years with Michel Roland and Alexandra Maniel Apostol for Casa l'Apostol and Cloa Palta in the Colchagua Valley before joining the group Baron Philippe de Rothschild in 2004 at the beginning with the branded wines like Escudo Rojo, and finally starting with Almaviva in 2007. So it's almost 14 years on this very particular project.
Wow. So since you've traveled so much, what makes Chile, just from a winemaking perspective, how is winemaking different in Chile?
Well, first of all, what is different are the natural conditions that we have here, in the sense that in most of the valleys, the rains are concentrated mainly in winter, which makes that we have normally at a very dry and sunny vegetative season, which means which makes everything easy to produce ripe and healthy grapes, with quite a very with naturally the more organic management of the vineyard, which is important. Then we have also the big difference of temperature between day and night, about 20 degrees Celsius, which makes that we have naturally very good conditions to get more color, more tannins, more anthocyans in the red wines, because of the big difference that we have between the maximum of the day and the minimum of the night. And we have also the big diversity of situation, topography, and climate between the north, the south, the east, and the west. If you are close to the Andes, or if you are close to the Pacific Ocean, or if you are close to the north and south. So that means that today, if you explore many parts of Chile, you can have a diversity of varieties and styles and characters and acidity level completely different, which is good to for Chile as a wine of country. This is more for the viticulture and the vines. Speaking of winemaking, of course, it's clearly very much influenced by the quality of the grape that we had at the beginning. But if we speak of winemaking techniques, of course, we have been using finally the same technique that you will find all over the world. Of course, things have come probably faster than 20 years ago. Today, when there is a new technology, a new equipment in Bordeaux, in Europe, you can probably get it the following year than in Chile. So I don't think at this level there is a big difference. But of course, the terroir, the climatic conditions are completely different. Especially the risk of rain, which is very low in most of the places.
But then how does it, I think this is all of Chile, but you're very close to the ocean, you're very close to the mountains, or is it big enough that it's how does that affect you as a wine grower and then maybe as a winemaker?
Well, it depends where you are. For us, as you can see behind, we are close to the Andes. That means that we have mainly this effect of the Andes, with some cold winds that will come down at the end of the day after 5 p.m., especially because we are just in front of the Maipo Canyon. So that means the speed of the winds is also faster. So we get these cold winds that will come down from the mountains, which are naturally cooler because they come from the snowy tops of the mountains, and that will decrease the temperatures and generates this big difference of temperatures, and that will finally moderate the heats of the day and refresh the nights and create particular conditions to have a slow ripening process. So globally in this place, the proximity of the Andes make that we are globally in a late terroir. Without the risk of the late terroir. In Bordeaux, the late terroir can be sometimes considered a bit complicated because of the risk of rain. In a place where there is no risk of rain or almost nothing during the time of harvest, it becomes a plus because you have a slow ripening process, which helps you to keep freshness, to keep fruit, to keep acidity. And most of the time we produce great red wines with a slow ripening process. When it's too fast, we are not in the best condition to make it.
I love the bird in the background. I think that's so awesome. So that was, I sort of had another question about there's a perception here, and I think people see very inexpensive, what I call industrial wine from Chile. And there's that perception that wine is just inexpensive, mass produced. And I want to ask what you do that's different. You're saying it's because you have the altitude, you have the long time, but how come your wines have a tension and a freshness? And that makes me think maybe you pick earlier, or what do you do to maintain that? Because your wines are not flabby and overwrought and kind of stewed fruit that you sometimes get in a warmer climate. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. They said we have the chance to, because of the proximity of the Andes, to keep this freshness and to get the ripeness we want. So if you can get at the same time freshness and ripeness, which doesn't happen very often and which is not easy to get at the same time, you get this kind of result. Freshness and ripeness, tensions and complexity of fruit. And this is clearly because of this proximity of the Andes on that side. Of course, the quality of the terroir, the soils that we have, the rocky soil that we have, because of the proximity of another natural element, which is the Maipo River, makes that we are also in very good conditions to produce very high quality of Cabernet Sauvignon, top border varieties that we have here. Because we are located at about 4 kilometers far from the river, which explains the kind of soils that we have, alluvial soils, rather young soils, but rocky soils. But we are not so close to the river. When you are very close to the river, you will have mainly sand and gravel, small gravels between the rocks. When you are further, you are clearly on an older alluvial terrace where with a certain level of evolutions, with a certain percentage of clay between the rocks, which make the quality of the terroir. So we have normally between 8 to 15% of clay on a certain depth of the soils, but with a percentage of rocks that can be 30-40% at the beginning, up to 70-80% when you go deeper at 1.5 meter, 2 meters. Gotcha. So the wonderful terroir. Speaking of the varieties that we have, the Cabernet Sauvignon that like this kind of situation of good drainage, and also the other varieties that we also use on a smaller percentage. So,
are the other river valleys fairly similar because they're still going from the mountains to the ocean? Are the soil contents that similar, or how is Maipo different from the other rivers?
Yeah, what we have seen so far is that the quality of the tannins of the Cabernet Sauvignon in the Maipo Valley is globally is it has been so far better than what we have seen in other places. It's probably the condition the combinations of these two factors, the type of soils, but also the proximity to VNDs. We have this particular chance in terms of quality of tannins. You will probably find other places with the same kind of soils, but it's probably not easy to find always these combinations of
Gotcha.
of proximity of VNDs that give this freshness to the wines, and also this kind of soil. But this kind of soil, yes, you will find in many other places with alluvial soils and rocky soils. But of
I
course,
love it. Okay,
it's
that's
always
great.
a combination.
It's like the perfect place. I love when things work out like that, and they clearly put a lot of effort into finding the right place. How do you decide then where you're going to plant the Cabernet and where you're going to plant the Carmenere? How do you decide that?
Well, at the beginning, the project was forward thinking of an assemblage, of a blend of like in Bordeaux or like in Pauillac with mainly Cabernet Sauvignon. So the choice of the place with the partner with Conche Toro that had this vine before was based on the best place for growing Cabernet Sauvignon. We are from the beginning to an experience on this, and the choice of Puente Alto was based on the quality of the Cabernet Sauvignon at the beginning. So today we have all vineyards that were planted more than 40 years ago, and we have also younger vineyards that we keep on planting. At the beginning, the project was more thinking of a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. Finally, the Merlot was not Merlot, but was Carmenere, but the place where we are is more suitable clearly for Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the Carmenere needs soils which have a higher content of clay and probably a bit more sun. But the place where we are is more we are more focused on Cabernet Sauvignon, and we grow now the Cabernet in a place a bit different, which is Peumo, where we find these kind of conditions.
Gotcha. Okay. So could you give me a little background of just a brief overview of the history of how the estate came about?
Yeah. Almaviva was created officially in 1997 as a joint venture between Baron Philippe de Rothschild that owns Chateau Mouton Rothschild in Pauillac, and then Viña Conche Toro from Chile. So both families, a group of families of a long history and traditions in winemaking. They both wanted to produce the premium wines in Chile. The Baroness Philippine de Rothschild wanted to follow the step of his father that created Opus One with Robert Mondavid in California in the 70s, and then she found in the Chilean partners with the Larraín and Tanguilizasti families, the best partners with the same passion, the same spirit of the family, of traditions and excellence. She found exactly the place and the partner that you wanted to create Almaviva. So we started in '97 with 40 hectares of vines that were planted in '78 that were put in the project by Concheitoro in Puente Alto, and we then increased the surface to the property. So today we have about 90 hectares of land and about 65 hectares of vines planted.
Okay.
And in '99, the new winery was built exclusively to produce Almaviva. Then since then, we are here learning every day a bit more to make the wine better.
That's good. Always learning, for sure. So I want to ask you, you're in harvest now, and I was talking to Danielle how it's hard for me being in the Northern Hemisphere. I have to always add 6 months and think where that would be to see where you are. So what does a winemaker do during harvest? It's kind of a silly question, but we think of you as blending and educating us, but what do you do during harvest?
Well, we have two main activities during harvest. We have the teams of the vineyards that are very busy, during the harvest, cutting the bunches of the grapes, and we have the other team also very busy in the winery that will receive the grapes, do the sorting of the grapes on a second level to respect the concept of gravity, and we have on the first level of the winery, the team that will do the pumping over all the works of vinification, pressing and putting the wine barrels and all this thing. And the winemaker in all these things, I would say that the part of the job is first to decide what we are doing to harvest today or tomorrow during the week, and I would say that probably the first part of the harvest that lasts quite a long time, because for us it's almost 7, 8 weeks, 9 weeks sometimes. Oh, wow. So quite a long. Will be for me more in the vineyards, to walk in the vineyards and to define the zones, the blocks or the micro zones of the blocks that we'll harvest, and to finally define blocks of harvest, because we don't only harvest by block, but we also harvest by different micro zones from different blocks, which have been defined according certain studies to get the grapes of the same level of ripeness at the same time in the same tank. So the part of the job will be more in the vineyard to decide what we will harvest, when, and how we will divide each blocks, because we have a certain quantity of parcels, which about 40, but we finally divide most of the parcels in micro zones, which makes things a bit more complicated. So the part of the work is there, and the second part of the work is that the reception level, to see how we sort what we keep, how we will adjust the different equipments, optical selection, and all these things. And also all the decisions that we have to take in terms of pumping over macerations, which make that every day we'll taste all the different batches that we have in tanks, which can be from the juice to the wine that has started to ferment, the wine that have finished its fermentation, to the wines which is in maceration, to finally adjust the quantity of pumping over that we have to do to adjust the level of extraction and maceration, and to finally decide when we will he will separate the wine from the skins to put the wines into barrels and to press the skins to put the pressed wines into barrels. And we have
Do you?
also to take the decision according to the quality in which kind of barrels we'll put it,
Oh, right.
which kind of toast, which kind of brands, and all this thing.
Do you ever, since you've been there for 14 years now, do you ever during harvest, even before like the maceration and the pump over, do you ever get an idea of what you think the wine's going to be like at the very, very early stages of harvest?
That's not easy. And we say that many people say that they ask us to compare a certain vintage to another. And most of the time, it's even after 25 years in Chile, I think it's very difficult because they are all quite different.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to say that it was exactly like this 20 years ago
Right.
or 5 years ago. No, we have always surprises. Most of the time, I would say good surprises. It is not easy. It's and also because we had different, probably different climates than 20 years ago or 15 years ago. It's not as well defined as what we can imagine. People just speak of global farming, but global warming. But in fact, we can have less rainfall than before. But when you speak of temperatures, we have seen very warm years and cooler year. For example, this year, 21 has been globally cooler in summer, probably among the coolest of the last 5-6 years in summer from January to March, while the year was globally dry. So it can be very, very different, and it's we are
Like you
very
said,
happy with the
always
result
learning.
today, but we didn't imagine this at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, like you said, you're always learning on top of that. Can you, since you mentioned global warming, can I ask what practices the estate is doing to mitigate the damage, or what kind of farming are you guys doing, and maybe any changes for global warming?
Yeah. First of all, it's important to say that we are globally in a dry area. That means that historically we have an average of about 300 millimeter of rainfall, which is mainly concentrated in winter and beginning of spring, which is not much. And normally we consider that the vines need a minimum of 450 millimeter of rainfall without irrigation.
Okay.
And this last 5, 6, 7 years, we have seen a lower level of rainfall, which is more close as an average to 220, 230 millimeters of rainfall. 2020 was only 65 millimeters of rainfall, which is very, very little. So, of course, for us, irrigation is very important, and it's not only an option; it's a compulsory practice. But the main difference compared to probably 10 years ago is that our human influence in terms of water supply has become bigger, because we need to add more water than before because we have less rainfall, and of course we have to take more decisions, and then the impact of the human decision is becoming bigger, because we can obviously irrigate in a very different way than our neighbors that receive the same level of rainfall in terms of frequency, in terms of quantity, in terms of dates, and of course create a difference that you will not see it in a place where there's no irrigation. So for us, the level of rainfall is a very important issue. So we have to do it, and it's also because we made lots of trials in the beginning. 15 years ago, we started with some underground irrigation system to use to have less evaporation and to get the water closer to the roots. We keep on doing lots of trials on irrigation because it's clearly a very important issue. And then on the other side, as I said at the beginning, we are very happy to be in a country, in a place where we have naturally a very low risk of pest of fungus because of the dry climate that we have. So that means that we have naturally we are naturally in a very good positions to work in a more organic way. Although we have still some issues and something where we have to keep on working. For example, when you have in a very warm country, then when you do irrigation, you will have naturally more weeds than in a place where you don't do it. So we have to work more on this part. Lots of blocks are done manually, which is not easy. But every day we are trying to manage the vineyards in a more organic way. Although we have no certification, then we have not we are not yet at 100% at this level. Still some work to do.
Yeah, but I think people understand that sometimes if you were to lose, like Ponte Canet was like he was going to lose a whole year if he didn't spray, and so he sprayed, and I think people are very understanding that you make the effort, and that's all people really care about is that you're doing as much as you can. Before we go, could you explain the label for me, because I think it's fascinating, and I don't know. You brought the bottle too. We'll have a bottle fight. Could you explain the label? I think it's a gorgeous story.
Mm-hmm. Well, when Almaviva was created, it was important for the two partners, the French partner and the Chilean partner, that the two cultures are present on the label. So we have yours is better. Yeah, we have the French culture, which is present through the name of Almaviva. Almaviva sounds Spanish, but in fact is a direct reference to the French literature, to the marriage of Figaro, written in the 18th century by Pierre de Beaumarchais as a play and changed into opera by Mozart after. Mm-hmm. And one of the main characters, the Count of Almaviva, the Count of Almaviva is one of the main characters of this play. Right. And what we have to know is that the husband of the Baroness Philippine de Rothschild, Jean-Pierre de Beaumarchais, is a direct descendant of Pierre de Beaumarchais. So we had the possibility to use the name, and Jean-Pierre also contributed to find the name of Almaviva for this wonderful name.
And that's his handwriting, right?
And we have also the presence of the Chilean culture through this three circle that you see on the labels, that are generally painted on the traditional Mapuche drum. The Mapuche people being the natives from the south of Chile, so it is generally painted on this traditional drum, and it represents the visions of the universe, of the cosmos, with the four cardinal points, north, south, east, west, with these small points in the middle that represent the four seasons, which is very adapted to what we do and the cycle we have. and these semicircles that correspond to the winds, which are more important in the north south direction and the east west direction.
It's such
So
a iconic label that's so well done, and it really incorporates both cultures. When I was reading about that, I was really blown away. I think it's beautifully done. So, Michel, we're out of time. I want to let you go, but I want to thank you so much for your time. I know it's the busiest time of year for you all there, and I really appreciate everybody and Danielle's help for getting us together. I want to thank you so much.
thank you very much. And well,
There you go. I'm going to
we
drink
have a bit
later.
of Almaviva 2004, which is
I have some for later. Thank you so
okay.
much, Michel. It's a true pleasure. I hope to meet you in person one day. Enjoy
Thank you
harvest.
very much. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye-bye.